Hi, my name's Lindy and welcome to the channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk, email info@lindycowling.co.uk, and the title of the video this evening is The Manipulation of Chakras via Control Energies. The manipulation of chakras or the chakra system via control energies. So if for the purposes of this video, you and I work on the premise that we have an energy body or an energetic system that has a series of chakras running through it, and the reason I'm introducing it in this way is not all of us feel that there are just 7 chakras or even 8 chakras. And for the purposes of this video, it doesn't really matter how many chakras you believe or you're convinced that the system does have, whether it's vastly more than that or, 7 chakras. The same information, shall we say, applies. And personally, from my perspective, I don't work when I'm working on clients on a 7 or 8 chakra system. I'm usually working these days on a 12 chakra system within the mainframe, shall we say, and then additional chakras above that. So I'm seeing clairvoyantly 15 chakras, but I know that there are 24, and the others are, I wouldn't say dormant, but not, for some people, will never come online, and perhaps for the bulk of humanity won't come online, but they're sitting there waiting. So I'm aware of others, but I mainly work on the 15 in total. And I brought a video out some time ago saying the 15 to 24 chakra system a year or two ago, I think. But for the purposes of this video, it doesn't matter if you don't believe there are any chakras really at all, and you can go along with the concept of there being intersection points or nodes within the body, or if you believe there are 7 chakras or vastly more than 7 chakras, the same kind of information applies. So the manipulation of the energy system, the energy field, the energy chakras via control energies. So usually I start from the top down, but for this video I'm going to start from the bottom up, so to speak, excuse the pun. So for those lower chakras, what is commonly known as the survival chakras, the instinct chakras, the base chakras, these are susceptible to a particular form of control energy and a particular form of manipulation. And those manipulative energies are all around a certain kind of leader of the pack, or the king of the monkeys, or the queen of the giraffes, or whatever. It's that almost like competitive, primal, instinctual, sexual, very power trippy lower chakras there. And the personalities that control energies really thrive through working through are those that manipulate those chakras to the 10th degree. So they will have a mindset that they need to be, in a way, all powerful or all dominant, competitive, not in a, let's say, a healthy way, but in order to rule others really and have power and manipulation over others. The use, or we could almost say misuse, of sexual energy in order to control others, in order to feed and siphon from the energy from others, in order to almost like feed that illusion of being strong and big and powerful. This would apply to male and female, using those chakras. And I'm not saying, before you misunderstand what I'm saying, that people, having sex is wrong or anything like that. What I'm saying is it's the mindset behind it. And if the person in their personality or the control energy that they are running through their system, and actually they think they're in control and the control energy is controlling them, by the way, if they're coming from the whole aspect of it being done for control, manipulation, then it's a whole different scenario to them, let's say, having sexual relations because there are deep and true feelings for one another, them and their partner, or as an expression that way. So I'm talking about the control element of manipulating these chakras. Like, for example, and this is a true scenario that I was told once, quite a few years ago. Somebody, a male in a marriage that was in trouble, saying he didn't really want to engage in sexual relations with his wife, but he knew if he didn't go through the motions, then he wouldn't be able to control the outcome of that marriage, which is quite an extraordinary statement. But he was using sex to control his wife and the outcome of that marriage. So we can take all sorts of extremes of that and, bring narcissistic personalities in there, using sex as a weapon almost, or as a way of controlling or keeping people on a hook, not just in personality, but actually energetic hooks, keeping people hooked in. And that's the sexual energies are in a real extreme example of how those energies are used in life, in so-called normal relationships, and I mean used and misused, but also on the other flip side of it, on the manipulation, the intentional manipulation of energy. So not just from a personality point of view, like the man I was saying, controlling his marriage through sex, but someone, being aware of energy and aware of how to hook in via those lower chakras and keep the person or people engaged in that. So there's a ready supply of energy, draining taking place, a ready supply of almost that addictive hit, really, of feeling the power trip that goes along with manipulating those chakras. So the sexual energy side of it is really a massive part of a control energy agenda. And if we want to take this slightly wider, we only have to look at the so-called modern world we live in to see examples of this. The earlier and earlier sexualization of children, both male and female. It's particularly noticed in the sexualization of young girls, younger and younger and younger. These control energies manipulating that through all of the public domain. You could see it very, very heavily in the music industry. And before I'm about to say what I'm about to say, I'm going to laugh here because anyone watching this will probably say, oh, that's because, she's not of an age now where she's, into all the latest chart music. I can tell you I'm a huge music lover. I've always been a huge music lover. And I'm quite aware of a lot of the music that's about, even the absolute drivel that's out there. I'm aware of all sorts of music. And what I'm about to say here is, even when I was 16 or 17 and singing music and fronting groups, bands, myself in my own right singing, I never had to dress like a hooker or a prostitute to sing a good song. Do you know what I mean? That sexualization was going on then, and it's veered so that it's almost like watching a porn movie on some of those videos. And of course, the generations growing up with that are being sexualized themselves because they accept that from the age of 6 or 7. If they're seeing it as normal, it's being normalized. So these control energies, if we look at a bigger picture, it's the control of the sexual energy very, very strongly by these control energies and systems that are there. It filters down to the individual personalities of people, how they decide to use those energies and use those lower chakras in terms of their own survival and their life path, in terms of their own use of sexual energy. So you've got it going on, if you like, on all different levels, those chakras being manipulated. So if you were to sit and watch a music video, you probably wouldn't think, well, I'm being manipulated at all. But if you are watching a music video where someone is literally got hardly any clothes on and they're, twerking all over the place, whatever, you are being manipulated. And maybe you'll sit there and laugh and say, well, that's a great way to be manipulated. But there is a manipulation of the lower chakra energies in order, in that case, to sell records, or in order for the popularity, or in order to press certain chemical responses in the male or female watching. So there are just, I'm talking on all different levels here. So we're talking on the basic personality level of the manipulation of those chakras. We're also talking about the earlier and earlier sexualization of young children, actually, that it becomes normalized then very early on to be awash with that kind of thing in culture and in on social media and through television and through all the ways they get access to it these days. And that's another manipulation of chakras. You can also get the individual personality of someone that is manipulating via those control energies to control someone's life, influence someone's life, control them through that sexual manipulation energy. All of that going on, and those lower chakras are all to do with survival and instinct, and so it's all the little tricks outside those control energies there, but also within the individual personalities that press the buttons in order really for power, control, manipulation, whatever way they can do it. Sex being the top one, sexual energy being the absolutely top one. Sexual energy being the highest misused energy on the planet, for sure. Nothing new there. That's, since time began, excuse the pun again, that's a very long-term thing. So manipulated in whatever way it can be, because it's a very primal, instinctive energy. In its lowest form, of course, it really goes nowhere, that energy. In its highest sacred form, of course, it's connected with the energy of creation, and though its highest form, coming up through the heart, is a very pure divine life force, life enhancing energy. But in its lower chakra form, it's not actually, it's a very manipulative and depleting kind of energy that leaves one wide open in personality, but also outside of them, to be controlled. And the saddest thing is, most people that run very strongly those energies and control from that mindset via that, feel that they are the one in control, and in fact the control energy is controlling them. So they're a bit like a puppet, and the puppeteer is controlling them. So it's on lots of different levels I'm talking here. So they are the let's say the lower chakras, and then as you go up through the chakras, really it's an interesting duality here, is that you would think logically that as you get to the top chakras, that none of that shenanigans is going on there, because the conceived idea is that the upper chakras are almost like untouchable from any manipulation energies, because they are, let's say, the third eye, the spiritual chakras, linking to your essence form, which of course all of this is true. But when one first goes through an awakening, through those chakras there, and the third eye blasts open, you are like a radio that has been running about 6 or 7 stations, that then runs 12 stations immediately. And you may perceive at that point that all of the input that you're getting in is legitimate, is clean, pure input, and that all of the outside information you're getting, whether it's a form of channeling, whether it's a form of information clairaudiently or clairvoyantly, you may assume that is legitimate, and in fact a lot of the times it isn't legitimate at all. What's happened is you've gone online in a different way, and you're accessing many frequencies, some of which those frequencies are legit and pure, and some which aren't. Some literally are white noise, and some are heavily influenced control energy programs. And that is a huge thing that runs throughout the light work industry, where people perceive they have tapped into the pinnacle. I call it, I've been talking about this for about 4 years now, I call it the egg white at the top of the egg, and they think that's the pinnacle, but they've reached the egg white in top of the egg and they haven't broken through the egg yet. So many people remain within that egg, tapping into the egg white, and the egg white can be heavily influenced with all these programs that I've spoke about over the years, the unrequited love program, the control energies, all sorts of interference. So these chakras can also be tampered with and tinkered with, really, until one reaches a level of clarity and discernment within oneself, and is running enough awareness and heart energy that takes them, bursts them through the egg, and brings them into their ultimate, shall we say, or higher, shall we say, grid of consciousness, which brings them online, I could say, to their true grid of consciousness, and not the old system or the manipulated system or the illusion that goes along with much of that. Now, I could go further in this and say that I have seen this so clearly in all walks of life. But if I just turn my spotlight onto the lightworker industry, I can think of a few classic examples where that egg white is being tapped into by someone that sets themselves up as a spiritual teacher, and then encourages a mass of followers to also tap into this heavily manipulated and heavily contaminated egg white, because they're running a control energy. They, the teacher, are running massive control energies, and their only interest is the control of the masses. But the one who's running, the teacher's running the control energies, is also being controlled. They are not the top dog. They are being handled, ironically. And if one has reached a point in their own evolution, you can spot this a mile off. And you can also see them shift and morph to what they really are and what's really running them or running through them. I can think of 2 classic examples here, and I'm not going to name names because I'm not kind of into that game of doing that. But one is a female, a very well-known female that does this, very well-known. And the other is a well-known male. Now, the dead giveaway for me is that the control thing. When you have people worshipping you and you encourage the worshipping of you like that, when you are setting yourself up as a teacher, for me, it's a dead giveaway. It's a dead giveaway. Now, it's up to people to see that for themselves, Some people will never see that and they will stay within the egg for the rest of their lives. And other people will break through that and see it for themselves. And some will be very angry when they see the truth of it, and some will be shocked, and some will continue onward and upward. But it's like all of these systems, like we're seeing across the world at the moment, the spotlight is being thrown, just like I said it would be, on many, many things across the world, and the truth is coming out. Some people will be shocked at that, some will see it, some will be relieved, some will go beyond it, and some will be shattered by it or devastated by it or refuse to believe it. You know, it depends on the perception you're coming from. So those top chakras, really, you are accessing the legitimate, shall we say, information, or the legitimate frequency from that. Really, once you get to a point in your own evolution where you can tell the difference and discern for yourself the difference. And that really is when you're getting up into the consciousness and the portals of the heart. Another chakra really I mustn't miss out, really, again, is if I've leapt from the bottom and gone to the top, and now I'm going to go to the middle, is these middle chakras. I mean, the heart chakra, there can be massive manipulation around that to try to prevent people going into the heart. Many times over the years, I've worked with healers and also in my own right as a healer, and seen all sorts of contraptions being put metaphysically over people's metaphysical heart to prevent them from going into the portal of the heart, or to try and stop them. These have been in the form of thought forms. These have been in the form of things being inserted into the energy field. These have been artificial, non-artificial. These have been on an energetic level. These have been in the form of like entities, all sorts of things that have been trying everything they can to prevent that person or people going into the heart. They actually, when somebody knows what they are doing energetically, it's usually fairly straightforward to remove those. If we go down to the chakras around the tummy area there, that's another big one that gets really massively affected, really at all times, super sensitive, but especially in a big awakening. When there's a big awakening there, it's a very common area to have all sorts of turmoil and churning as you come online in a particular way, or in a higher way, or a different way to what you have before energetically. And that area can significantly feel it, but also be significantly affected. So it is very commonplace, surprisingly commonplace, for people to get targeted around that area, around the tummy area. Not just during things like a psychic attack, but during awakening, when that blows wide open, like a door suddenly being flung open. It's very, very commonplace again for them to pick up on all sorts of frequencies while they're kind of opening up in that way, and that area to become super sensitive. Now, I don't mean this in a negative way. You know, I'm just saying it as it is. Someone who's worked in energy, you know, huge parts of my life. When you come online, that energy can become, that area can become, the stomach can become super sensitive, and all sorts of things kick off actually there. That you didn't actually have before you became super sensitive. But it's an area that is very easy for energies to hook into, especially if you are opening up in a particular way and haven't realized that you've been opening up. So in a way, you're like a door that's been wide open. So all of the chakra system, in other words, if I'm going to summarize here, is susceptible and able to be manipulated, really, until one gets to a point in one's evolution where they have come online to the quantum grid of themselves, the quantum grid of the planets, the higher aspects of themselves. At that point, they can no longer be affected like that in the same way, because they are on almost like on a different network or on a different system, so they can't be affected in the same way. But on a conventional, if there's such a thing, linear, kind of starting from linear and then awakening that way, all of these chakras are affected positively and can be affected negatively, and can be affected, yeah, detrimentally, you know, sometimes, and are all of those chakras, to certain degrees of your evolution, are open to manipulation until you have the awareness, the discernment, and the state of consciousness to prevent otherwise. And on that note, I will love you and leave you. As always, thanks for watching this channel. Thanks for supporting me as the channel. I hope you guys are well, and I will be back with you again soon. Until then, take care. Bye.